Hello, I'm TC, the Third Party Conversation. Today I'd like to talk about the operational command structure per the Goldwater-Nichols Act of 1986, some commands, task forces, and the so-called double tap. The operational chain of command at the very top is the Commander-in-Chief, the President. Below him is the Secretary of Defense. Quote, principal assistant to the President in all matters relating to the Department of Defense, end quote. They are the civilian command authority in control of the U.S. military operations. Occasionally, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is mentioned, but the CJCS is not in the command structure, but is an advisor to the Commander-in-Chief and Secretary of Defense. Below the CNC and the SecDef are 7 geographically oriented unified combatant commands. These are the joint military commands in a specific area of responsibility in AOR, designed to optimize command and control. There's a reason for that emphasis. There are also 4 specialized commands: Special Operations, Transportation, Strategic Command, and Cybersecurity. The geographic commands are NORTHCOM, which is North America, SOUTHCOM, which is South America, the Indo-Pacific Command, or the European Command, Africa Command, Central Command, which is the Middle East, and Space Command. Sorry, I go to the Muppets every now and then. These combatant commanders are, and I cannot emphasize this enough, are responsible for the U.S. military operations within their AOR. My focus today is on Southern Command, which is a joint military command with an AOR of South America, Central America below Mexico, and the Caribbean. Its components are the U.S. Military South, which is 6th Army out of Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Air Forces Southern out of Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. U.S. Naval Forces Southern Command and 4th Fleet out of Mayport, Florida. U.S. Marine Corps Forces South, which is out of Doral, Florida. And Special Operations South, Homestead Air Reserve Base in Florida. These commands are subordinate to the Unified Combatant Southern Command, which exercises the command authority. A task force. A task force is a unit or formation established to work on a single defined task or activity. The term was originally introduced by the United States Navy and is now caught on for general usage and is now standard part of NATO terminology. They can be set up for any reason, like a disaster relief after Katrina, Andrew, or Sandy. They could also be set up for kinetic and non-kinetic military operations. A task force could be commanded by anyone. I commanded task forces during exercises. I never did it in real life. Now, Joint Task Force Southern SPEAR. The strategic direction comes from the President, which has directed the Department of Defense to act. The operational command is SOUTHCOM, the regional combatant command, and he established Joint Task Force Southern SPEAR to execute the missions. Force integration, the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force Headquarters forms the core of JTF Southern SPEAR, working with 4th Fleet operating unmanned systems and other interagency partners. The execution. Forces like the USS Gerald R. Ford Aircraft Carrier Strike Group provide a significant maritime presence and operational control. It's the largest naval operation since the Cuban Missile Crisis. In essence, JTF Southern SPEAR is the operational arm of SOUTHCOM, led by the Marine Corps 2nd MEF, executing national objectives with naval assets and advanced technology in the Southern Hemisphere. Nowhere in the above is U.S. Special Operations Command mentioned. Why do I bring this up? It's because of the Caribbean boat strikes, particularly the so-called double tap of 2 September of 25. It's not sitting well with me. Caveat. I am not a lawyer, a JAG officer, but I can guarantee that none of these commanders are operating solo. All have at least one JAG on the staff. There are rules to war. International humanitarian law, for instance, the Geneva Conventions Treaty, is another. These rules apply in a declared war. One of those rules is anyone in a uniform can kill any other uniformed opponent at any time. It doesn't matter if the opponent is holding a weapon or standing there smoking a cigarette or squatting over a log taking a dump. It's a declared war and uniforms are involved. This holds until someone is no longer a combatant. For example, surrender, an aircrew in a parachute, or sailors adrift at sea. Unconventional warfare has greatly confused all of this. One side holds to the rules while the other doesn't. So regarding the Caribbean operations, these boat strikes allegedly transporting drugs by so-called narco-terrorists. As an aside, isn't somebody bringing a product, the supply, to another location to sell, where the demand is, called capitalism? If there's a declared war and anyone involved were uniform, it's my understanding that these strikes would be perfectly legal. But the guys in the boats are not uniformed. I can't even say if the strikers are uniformed. Who is operating these assets? The U.S. military? Mercenaries? CIA? Further, all military members have been drilled in the following lawful and unlawful orders. The whole "I was just following orders" no longer flies, particularly after My Lai and Kent State. And what is in the chain of command? And what is in the chain of command for these strikes? We've already established that Joint Task Force Southern Spear falls under SOUTHCOM. So how could Admiral Bradley of SOCOM, Special Operations Command, be involved? By what authority would he have been able? More on that. Based on the micromanagement that I've witnessed over my 28 years, that the SecDef would have been in a room in the Pentagon watching the video and authorizing the first strike is very easy to believe. Further, that the room would have been full of others wanting to watch the show is also very easy to believe. It is my understanding there was a significant amount of time between the first and second strike. Depending on reporting, most of it fall around 45 minutes. Sitting there watching a video like that, whether it's a vehicle on a road or a troop movement, is boring. That someone would have left the room is very easy for me to understand. If SecDef had left the room, who authorized the second strike? Reports are that Admiral Bradley of SOCOM authorized the second strike. So what was the chain of command? It was clearly not SOUTHCOM. So who was Bradley talking to? Well, according to an NPR Fresh Air interview of Alex Horton, a Washington Post national security reporter, Spec Ops was conducting a parallel operation involving SEAL Team 6 in SOUTHCOM's AOR. Now, get this, a functional combatant commander, Special Operations Command, is conducting kinetic operation in SOUTHCOM's AOR. This is a command and control nightmare. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and the civilian authority is smack dab in the middle of the chaos. This is amateur hour. The reporting continues that SecDef, the so-called Target Engagement Authority, wanted the people in the boat to be killed, so Bradley ordered a second strike. Once again, it appears SOUTHCOM was bypassed completely. This may have led to Admiral Halsey's resignation. I'm going to reiterate, I am not a JAG. However, after the first strike, even if the laws of armed conflict had applied prior to the strike, The Geneva Convention, in addition to maritime law, would have applied after the strike. Maritime law includes regulations requiring ships to assist individuals in distress at sea, ensuring all vessels must provide help regardless of the circumstances. This duty is rooted in international conventions and customary law, emphasizing the importance of saving lives at sea. There's one other area of law which needs considering: jurisdiction. Where were these strikes? U.S. territorial waters, Venezuelan waters, Trinidad waters, international waters. So what law applies? If it's U.S. law, where was the due process? Someone acted as judge, jury, and executioner without due process. Why is this important? Because the same laws apply to protect our military members. If the U.S. is ignoring them, we are no better than Russia in Syria, in Chechnya, or Ukraine. And we shouldn't be surprised if our opponents follow our example. So are these extrajudicial executions war crimes? Once again, I'm not a JAG. But I'll say no, because there is no declared war, and war crime is a very specific legal definition. However, I will state I think it's murder. The laws of armed conflict were ignored. The Geneva Convention was ignored. Maritime law was ignored. The U.S. Constitution, particularly the 4th and 14th Amendments, were ignored. So what is the justification? The administration has declared that certain organizations as narco-terrorists, and therefore the administration could use military force and not normal law enforcement, based on presidential war powers. Presidential war powers, more zombie laws that our lazy Congress, via our moribund two-party system, has allowed to linger. We need better, proactive DC employees. Come join the conversation.